There are forces I cannot see, yet I feel them. Not in the air, not in the room, but in the silence between my thoughts. Sometimes it's subtle, a tightness in the chest when I scroll through perfect lives on a glowing screen. Other times it's louder, a voice in my head whispering that I'm not enough, that I'm falling behind, that someone is watching and judging everything I do. These aren't demons with names. They don't wear cloaks or cast spells. They wear the shape of expectations. They speak in the language of comparison. They creep in through the quiet moments and take root in the mind before I even notice. I used to think monitoring spirits were just the stuff of stories, supernatural agents sent to follow, to observe, to sabotage. But the older I get, the more I realize I don't need a spirit from the outside to haunt me. I've built enough ghosts of my own. Some of them are born from regret, the things I didn't do, the words I didn't say. Others come from shame, seeded in childhood, fed by failure and watered by silence. And some come from the hunger to be seen, to be liked, to be approved by people who don't even know me. In a world where every click is tracked, every opinion recorded, and every silence interpreted, it's hard not to feel watched. We live in an era of algorithms and surveillance, but the real watchers, the ones that truly matter, are the thoughts I let grow unchecked inside me. They ask, what will they think? They whisper, you're too late. They shout, you're not ready. And I, without resistance, let them sit at the table of my mind. But tonight, in this moment, I light a candle not against them, but for me. Small flame of awareness, a silent declaration that I am ready to see. Not what watches me, but what within me still fears being watched. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control what others do, say, or think, only how we respond. But what happens when the enemy isn't out there, but inside? What happens when the monitoring spirit is a pattern I've repeated, a wound I've ignored, a habit I've excused? This prayer, then, is not a cry for deliverance from external spirits. It's a call to awaken from the trance of unconscious thought, to recognize that I am the gatekeeper of my mind, and I've been letting too many shadows pass through unchallenged. So I begin here in the dark, not with fear, but with fire. Not to destroy, but to illuminate. To call forth the watcher in me. The one who observes not to judge, but to understand. The one who dares to ask, what part of me has been watching me through the eyes of fear? And more importantly, what would it feel like to be free? Some spirits don't come from outside. They are born within. Doubt, shame, regret, craving. They don't knock on the door. They awaken quietly inside me, often without my permission. And yet they move with such familiarity as if they've always belonged here. There are moments when I feel the weight of invisible eyes, not from people, not from machines, but from something deeper, ancient even. A presence in the chest, a heaviness in the breath, a shadow behind every decision I hesitate to make. But I've come to see the ones watching me aren't demons hiding in the trees. They are fragments of my own unresolved self. Echoes from the past, ideas I've mistaken for truth, identities I've worn too long. I used to blame the world for how I felt. It was easier to say, they made me feel this way. But the Stoics, those ancient, gentle warriors of reason, remind me of a deeper truth. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Epictetus, that single sentence became a sword, not to attack others, but to cut through illusion. And when I looked closer, I saw it. The monitoring spirit was not some outside force trying to break me down. It was a part of my own mind, trained by years of shame, by words I believed, by fears I never questioned, that now sits quietly in the corner, analyzing every move I make. This spirit isn't evil, but it is mistaken. It believes that if I stay small, I'll be safe, that if I never take risks, I'll never feel pain, that if I hide, I'll never be rejected. But the Stoics ask, is safety worth the price of freedom? I've come to realize that the scariest watchers are not the ones behind screens. They're the ones within me, the critical voice that mimics my parents' disappointment, the fearful whisper that says I'll fail, the perfectionist that turns every step into a battlefield. They take the shape of old beliefs, You must earn love by being useful. You're only valuable when you're winning. If they see your weakness, they'll leave. These are not truths. They are curses passed down without ritual, inherited spells cast not by sorcerers, but by wounded people doing their best. And if I don't question them, I become the one keeping the curse alive. So today I pause. I close my eyes, not to escape, but to look more clearly. I listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the voice I've carried for far too long. That voice, the one that says, "You're being watched." It may be right, but now I ask, who is watching? And why do I still obey them? Is it the fear of failure? The illusion of control? The need to be seen? Whatever it is, I no longer owe it my silence. The Stoics taught that true freedom is not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of reaction. And so I return to my breath, to this moment, to the one place the watchers cannot follow: presence. Because in presence, there is no past to regret, no future to fear. There is only what I choose to do now and how I choose to see. And I choose to see clearly. I do not need to banish spirits. I need to recognize which ones I've let speak too long. I do not need deliverance. I need discernment. And so this part of the prayer is not a cry for rescue. It is a gentle, firm return to awareness. It is me saying to the watchers within, I see you, you have served your time, but you no longer lead. I take back the seat at the table of my own mind, no longer ruled by ghosts, no longer governed by shadows, no longer followed by thoughts I did not choose. Today I begin to watch the watchers. Let me not cast out demons, but face the ones I've allowed to live too long inside me. I do not come with incense or flame. I come with awareness. This is my offering, a quiet moment, a steady breath, and the courage to look within without turning away. There is a kind of exorcism that does not require shouting nor oil. It begins with a whisper. I see you. Not to condemn, but to understand, because not every shadow deserves to be feared. Some only need to be seen under the light of reason. So I pray, not for deliverance from external spirits, but for clarity. Clarity to know what belongs to me and what I've picked up along the way. Clarity to tell the difference between protection and paralysis. Clarity to separate the voice of intuition from the voice of fear. Give me the strength not to run from what rises in silence. Give me the calm to hold space for the parts of me I've buried. The old anger, the ancient grief, the child who still trembles in the dark. These are the true watchers, not enemies, but messengers. I do not need to defeat them. I need to listen. Let my prayer be not a plea for escape, but a declaration of return. Return to presence. Return to stillness. Return to the sovereign ground of my own mind. If I have let fear masquerade as wisdom, forgive me. If I have mistaken shame for conscience, correct me. If I have obeyed voices that were never mine, release me. This is the altar I kneel at, the discipline of self-examination. The fire I call upon is not of heaven, but of attention. And the angels I summon wear no wings. They walk in the form of patience, restraint, and resolve. Let me see clearly what I've hidden from myself. Let me sit with discomfort without numbing it. Let me hold fear by the hand and ask it what it wants me to know before I let it go. I do not need to be free of darkness. I only need to carry a light. The Stoics never promised a life without pain. They promised that pain, when faced with wisdom, loses its sting. That suffering, when held with discipline, becomes transformation. So here I stand, not waiting for a miracle, but practicing the sacred art of attention. Because attention is what breaks the spell. Attention is what reveals the lie. Attention is what says, you are not that thought. You are not that fear. You are the one who notices both. Let me not react like a hunted animal, but respond like a soul remembering its power. Let me pause before I speak. Let me breathe before I believe. Let me choose the posture of stillness over the panic of control. This is how I cast out the watchers. Not with violence, but by becoming so deeply aware, they can no longer hide. Let them be seen. Let them be named. Let them pass. for nothing survives in the light that was born in shadow. So I open my hands, not to grasp, but to release. I open my eyes, not to judge, but to witness. I open my heart, not to feel safe, but to feel real. And I end this prayer with no demand, only devotion. A devotion to truth, a devotion to stillness, a devotion to becoming the watcher of my own mind, so that no false spirit, no inherited fear, no unconscious habit may ever lead my soul again. Amen. No curse can bind the mind that refuses to believe in fear. I used to think that liberation came from breaking something outside of me, a spell cast, a hex removed, a dark presence expelled. But over time, I've come to understand, true freedom doesn't come from defeating darkness. It comes from refusing to give it authority. The moment I stop believing that fear is king, the throne becomes empty. The Stoics taught that I do not rule over the world, but I do rule over how I meet it. I cannot control the wind, but I can set my sail. I cannot stop others from judging, but I can choose not to live for their approval. I cannot erase what has been said about me, but I can decide what I say to myself now. This is not passivity. This is power. It is a quiet power, not the kind that shouts or strikes, but the kind that sits in silence and chooses peace over panic, clarity over chaos, dignity over drama. The curses I once feared, whether spoken by others or whispered by my own mind, they only live because I fed them. I fed them with attention. I fed them with belief. I fed them with repetition. And now I starve them with stillness. I don't need to fight at every shadow. I just need to stop mistaking it for truth. So I no longer ask, who cursed me? Instead, I ask, where have I given away my power? I take it back not by force, but by responsibility. Because there is something sacred about owning your part in the story, not as guilt, but as ground, a place from which to rise. The world may never change. People may still betray. Voices may still criticize. Temptations may still come. The watchers may still linger. But I am no longer the same. I am not waiting to be rescued. I am returning to myself. I walk not by enchantment, but by awareness. I no longer fight shadows with spells. I face them with sovereignty. Because when I remember who I am, not who I was told to be, not who I feared I was, but who I actually choose to become, no curse can stick. It slides off the surface of a soul that has been polished by self-reflection. It burns in the light of a heart that no longer hides. And if fear tries to creep in, I welcome it like an old acquaintance. I sit it down. I ask what it's here to teach, and then I walk it to the door. That is what Stoic freedom looks like. Not armor that never cracks, but the strength to remain open without breaking. Not a mind that knows everything, but a mind that knows what it controls and what it doesn't. Not a heart without pain, but a heart that refuses to be ruled by it. So when they ask, who protected you from the watchers? I will say, I did, by watching myself. When they ask, what spell did you use? I will say, none. I simply stopped believing the lie that I was powerless. And when the world grows loud and fear returns, and the old voices rise up like ghosts, I will return too, not to fight them, but to outlast them, not to silence them, but to drown them in truth. Because now I know I am not the cursed, I am not the watched, I am not the haunted, I am the flame that reveals what's real. I am the voice that chooses truth. I am the watcher now. I no longer ask for magic to protect me. I ask for discipline. Because the greatest protection is not found in charms or chants, but in the mind trained to meet life with clarity. The soul anchored in principle, the heart steady in the storm. Let the world cast shadows. Let fear knock. Let the watchers watch. I will not shrink. Not because I am untouchable, but because I have stopped handing over my power. This is my new armor. A clear mind that refuses to obey every emotion. A stillness that listens before reacting. A sense of self built not on approval, but on values. There was a time when I thought freedom meant the absence of threat. Now I know. Freedom is knowing the threat cannot enter unless I open the door. So I close it gently, not with fear, but with finality. Today, I do not beg the darkness to leave. I no longer curse the watchers, nor plead with heaven to remove them. Because now I see, I am the watcher, the one who sees without judgment, the one who feels but is not overwhelmed, the one who walks forward even when the path trembles. I do not need to be perfect. I only need to be present. I do not need to know everything. I only need to know myself. And I do. I know that I will fall again. I know that fear will return, that old voices may creep in, that doubt will knock. But I also know I've changed. Because once you have learned to observe your own mind, no outside watcher can rule you. Once you've learned to sit with discomfort, no curse can bend you. And once you've become the master of your own response, you become untouchable, not by escaping life, but by meeting it fully, with open eyes and steady breath. So I say this, not as a plea, but as a proclamation. Today, I do not fear the watchers. I become the watcher of myself. And in that watching, I find peace. In that peace, I find strength. And in that strength, I find freedom. If this message stirred something in you, if you're ready to stop running from shadows and start mastering the light within, then I invite you to walk this path with me. Subscribe to True Stoic Way for more soul-deep reflections, modern Stoic practices, and meditative guidance to help you become unshakable from the inside out. This is not just philosophy, it's protection. It's not just thought, it's transformation. Subscribe now, share this with someone who needs to remember their power, and leave a comment below. What are your watchers, and how will you watch back? Stay still, stay strong, stay true to the Stoic way.